Okay, to start with, I would say that I would more than confirm some things that the previous speaker quoted earlier, coming from a large public university of northern Greece, the Aristotle University of Greece. We are indeed striving to communicate why IP should be translated to economic value. But as Panagiotis Karabini said earlier, it would be unfair to not share the good news that we have made great steps during the last 5 or 6 years. So over all these years, not only have we built a remarkable scientific capacity, but we have made great advancements in terms of technology transfer. And yes, we are talking about Greek universities and research centers. So we produce biotech patents, we have disclosures, we have spin-off companies that are more than at any point of the last 2 decades. We have many initiatives to advance IP management in our organizations. We have strengthened tech transfer processes and also have started to create efficient commercialization pathways. But there is a persistent translation gap that we realize, and we all admit that it exists, it remains. Fewer of 10% of the biotech patents are ever licensed or developed into products. Our early stage ventures face the valley of death. There is very limited proof of concept funding, scarce hospital-linked test beds, and insufficient regulatory expertise, which is very important. So our technology transfer offices have built robust structures, but quite generic structures. Yet biotech demands specialized commercialization frameworks, while at the same time investors expect strong IP strategies, clinical validation plans, and regulatory roadmaps, areas where most of our local teams are quite underprepared. So this is what we are going to discuss today, that we maybe excel at discovery, but what goes on with the delivery. So I will begin, we will make 2 rounds of questions, and hopefully we will have much time for discussion with the audience. Before I start, I would like to make a question. Are there here any researchers or people coming from the university that own IP but struggle to bring that to the market? Okay, so we have people from the ecosystem but not actually the researchers themselves. So let's broaden the discussion on this field. We will start with Professor Milonas. Professor Milonas is an academic advisor at the Archimedes Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, but also he holds the chair of METECH, which is the National Network of Tech Transfer Offices. So, Professor Milonas, in our universities and research centers, patents themselves have often been a core performance metric to assess biotech innovation. Yet, we still see low levels of licensed IP, funded spin-outs, and real-world adoption. Why is this happening in your view?
Well, thank you for being here and had the opportunity to talk about what is happening at the universities. Indeed, it's well known that we have patents, but we don't have commercialization of that. The reason is that there is no funding. It's a funding gap. By the time there is a patent and the money is exhausted and the research team looks for another different, perhaps, project, and the patent remains in the shelf. So it is obvious that something has to be done on that way, because this will continue. So how can we get these teams to be able to continue on what they already have, and from a TRL 3 to 4, they need to go to a prototype and have TRL 6 or 7 and start having interest from the VCs. I think what we know is happening in other countries is the proof of concept. which means funding at the early stage. And of course, that should be public money because, as I said, private investors do not go at that stage because there's so much of uncertainty and the risk of valuing such an output is really tremendous. So that is one thing. And the other is that we have to find collaboration. Collaboration at the very early stage so that researchers will team with the industry, and then one could understand the other much easier rather than have it ready and then try to sell it, and the licensing becomes very, very difficult. So from the literature that I read, this is the important thing. Try to get partners with the industry at the very early stage, and such an example is the program Ερευνώ Καινοτομό, which means people from the research and from the industry got together, have an idea, make a proposal, get the funding. We see that happening in our center, in our university, where some of these came to become patents, and then now we are in the process of talking to the industry and the researchers in order to take it further and be able to license it.
Thank you, Professor Milonas. So we have a few issues of immaturity, entrepreneurial immaturity in our universities and research centers, and I think more or less the image is similar to Cyprus as well, but let's give Maria the floor to talk about it. Maria, Cyprus Seeds operates in a relatively small ecosystem quite similar to Greek. So from your perspective, what drives better results for early-stage biotech ventures? Is it building strong local capacity first, like infrastructure, talent, and funding mechanisms, or forging global partnerships from the very early stages with investors, accelerators, and pharmaceutical companies to scale faster? How do you balance these two paths in Cyprus Seeds?
Eri, thank you very much for the question, and thank you for the invitation to be here. It's an honor because this has been an eye-opener for me, a very, very worthy forum, and I have learned a lot. So, Cyprus Seeds. Mr. Milonas, you have presented a gap which we at Cyprus Seeds, a non-profit private organization in Cyprus, is trying to fill. Since 7 years ago, we established this company in order to support the commercialization of academic research from the universities and centers of excellence and research institutes of the island. What do we offer? We offer exactly what is needed to fill in the gap that Mr. Milonas described. We offer a bit of grants, which is the oxygen to the scientists to take it to the next level, develop their TRL, technology readiness level, from maybe 4 to 7. We engage them with mentors, experienced mentors from the US, as we have partnered up with the MIT, who are pioneers in commercializing scientific research. And we always choose very well the mentors so that they have done commercialization. They know what it takes to take it to the market. What else do? We offer training to the scientists. And I would like to answer the question here, Eri. It's not only the biotech and the bioscience that is needing all that I'm describing. It's all the scientists who have that desire to take it from the research to the market and become investable ventures. So we do this training, which is dedicated to changing the mindset of the scientists, because that mindset is very different to the mindset of being an entrepreneur. And we offer training, for example, about customer exploration. Because when you talk to scientists and you tell them, go quickly to the market, go to the customer, they don't understand what you're telling them. I think the previous panel addressed this. As quickly as they can go to the market, the better the results would be. But very few would dare do that. So we teach them how to do that. And finally, we offer to these bio as well as scientists from other sectors networking opportunities with both customers and potential investors. So the answer to your questionnaire is it's all that I have described that we offer, because that is what is missing.
Okay, so you balance both sides. And talking about the preparation of biotech teams for investors, I think EGG also is on the same side. So Arianna, we have experienced as a university and also from our collaboration as well, that raising money for biotech startups is very tough and is very different from other sectors. So do you confirm this statement at first? And what should a biotech or a medical technology team have ready before approaching investors? And what is your methodology for preparing startups and spin-offs at EGG for fundraising?
Well, thank you very much for all your questions, and thank you all for being here today until this hour, and you're very tired, so I appreciate that. So to answer your question, yes, it's very difficult for biomedical companies and research teams to attract funding. But the first thing I think we should answer is, in which stage are they, right? So we have the ideation phase, of course, the early stage, so it's very different. They have to follow different pathways in order to get that investment. So when you have a research team that's just now developing their research and they're trying to see if they can go on the entrepreneurship roadmap, it's very different than having an already established startup in that field. So the first thing is that. The second one that I would suggest biotech companies to do is firstly understand the market that they are trying to evolve in, right? To understand the numbers, the size of the market, how they can evolve there. The second one is, I understand that scientists use a very scientific language, but it's very difficult for investors to understand that language. So they have to learn a new language, which is the business one. And that's why we are here to help them be still the scientists they are, because we are not asking them to change that, but also give a chance to understand how entrepreneurship works and how businesses work. And the third one, you asked about the methodology we're using at EGG. So at the EGG Accelerator, we have a methodology called the Real Win Framework. Basically, we support startups in accomplishing all their documents like pitch deck, one-pager, business plan at a level that is ready for an investor to actually see and give a startup the opportunity to be invested in.
Okay, thank you, Arianna. So getting investor ready is one thing, but convincing investors to commit is another, Mr. Mallios. So since you are bringing us here a global investor perspective today, it's time to listen your view from the funding side and ask you, when you evaluate a Greek biotech startup, what makes you say yes? Do you prioritize global market potential? Is it IP defensibility? Is it a regulatory plan, pathway? And equally important, what's actually your experience from the Greek ecosystem about the maturity of the teams you have scouted so far?
Okay. I've been here now for the better part of the day, and I've actually met some really interesting people, and we've had some discussions that sort of spanned a lot of different parts of the life cycle of a company and its founders and their concepts and their ideas and all this other stuff. I'm just new to this environment in Greece. And I'm learning more today than I came in with, which is fantastic for me, and it's fantastic for our investors and our team. And there's a part of that I think still is a challenge. And if it's a challenge for me, then it must be an even more daunting challenge for the founders of these companies or the scientists that are working on these things, and the teams that want to be a part of the future success of those concepts, of those ideas, of those treatments, of all that stuff, right? And I go back to Mr. Milonas and his comments, which, by the way, you two, this is a great team, right? You guys obviously fit a lot of the issues that are there, right? One can help the other, and this is a fantastic thing. You guys should hook up after this. Good for you. Good for you. The reason I'm going back to what you had said earlier, and it's really just a question for me, and I hope maybe this opens up dialogue later. It's, okay, who actually owns the IP? This is a problem that I think does not exist in, let's say, an environment where I'm from, okay? That's a little bit more defined, okay? And then you have the other question of who's going to get the benefit of the commercialization of that IP, right? There was a young lady here, her name is Christina, and I think she's actually with the group that organized this event. And she was asking me a question like, hey, how do I go from academia to commercialization? What's the roadmap that you would recommend? You know, I can't even really get to begin to tell her what the roadmap is because it's still a gray area to understand what is she going to market with? You know, it's not very clearly defined yet. And I think that that's a challenge that the young people or anyone in this ecosystem has to deal with. I mean, the easiest answer is, okay, you know what? Take your idea, get on a plane, fly over to the USA, and start meeting some people. That's the easy answer, but that doesn't solve what we're trying to solve for, right? So, and I don't want to leave it on you, but it starts from there, I think, right? From an academic perspective, if you are in that place and you have aspirations, right, of bringing something to market, you really need to know what you're bringing, because what an investor wants to know is, what am I buying, right? If you come to me with a concept and you have a fantastic presentation and you've done a great job in coaching them as to how to present this thing, and this is what it should look like, and here's your one-pager, and here's your pitch deck, and this is what you should focus on. Make sure you hit these key points because they're going to ask you, and blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, if they come to you, you have to ask them, what am I buying? Where's my money going? Who's in charge? What am I going to get? And if that's not clearly defined from the jump, we have a real systemic problem. You know? Now, as far as the commercialization of scientific breakthroughs are concerned, there are many different ways to commercialize that, right? You can partner, you can JV, you can bring your technology or your concept or your idea or your treatment or whatever it is that you want to do to a whole host of ways to do it. Or you can go I'm going to pioneer this thing, and here's my business plan, and here's my thing, and here's my that, and I'm going to go raise this amount of money because I've identified my market. I know exactly how I'm going to penetrate. I know what my barriers are. I know I got it all. But at the end, I might say yes. And we might get to that end point to go, okay, it's time to write a check. It's time to sign a document. What am I buying? And if you don't know how to answer that question for me, then there is a systemic problem that starts from at that level. And I think that that's really the thing we have to solve for first.
Okay, this is a great point, actually, and probably you will get an answer, but the fact is that you will get a different answer from each one of the organizations sitting in this stage. Yes,
Yeah.
this is exactly the case. So, yes, Maria, I will give you...
If I may,
Yes, of course.
Dimitri, it's an amazing point, because when we started 7 years ago, I still remember the first applicants to the Cyprus Seeds program. The good ones were invited to an interview. And the American evaluators were asking them about IP protection. And they were saying, what? What's that? Go back just 7 years ago. Huh? And then the worst is when you go to the hosting institution, leave aside the talented youth, researcher, PI, go to the hosting institution of this talented research team. The research institutions and the public universities in Cyprus, we don't have a lot, only 2, but also the other centers of excellence, only recently they defined their IP policy and they made it transparent. So imagine that if the hosting institution who owns that IP does not communicate to the researchers what is it about, how do you expect anybody to be incentivized and to take it to the market? And how do you expect any investor to be attracted? That's the worst. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And this is a great pass to Michali. So here you represent the Ministry of Economy and Finance, but you also represent yourself and your experience, your big experience from research and innovation. So this is your turn to answer Maria's question and Mr. Mallios' question. What is going on with policy in this ecosystem? So are we going ever to have a common IP ownership policy, and how are these revenues distributed in the owners? What's your
take on that.
Opinion on that?
Okay, but let me start from one step before this step, which has to do with the grants. The Greek government and every government around the world provides grants to research teams in order to de-risk these huge investments. And you know that the risk is really huge, especially in health and the biotech sciences, of course, you know that. And when these research teams reach up to a certain extent and they have a more mature technology, they have to start with a patent IP strategy. And this is where the problem starts here in Greece, and you nailed that problem very, very well. So the problem is that we don't have a clear IP strategy in terms of who owns this patent. And that is the way that we have a special task force where Eri is a prominent member of this task force, and they advise us in order to set a national IP strategy and set things clear out, because this is a huge problem. Actually, across Europe, all countries have the same IP strategy now, and only Greece has a mixed model because there are some, let's say, old school approaches about that. But we have to change that. And that should not come from top down, but we also need a bottom-up approach in order to have a validation of this approach, and then you will be in a position to invest in this IP strategy and know what you're getting out of this patent. I can continue on.
Okay, thank you, Michali. Yes, we will come back to you to talk more about the EU funding programs, which is also your area of expertise this period of the year. But I'm sure Professor Milonas would like to add on this discussion. And
well, we have the offices of technology transfer, or TTOs, that are more well known. They can do all the jobs that Demetrios was saying just before. Who has the IP? Well, a TTO has the job to clear it out. At least in the universities, the IP belongs to the university as long as the work is done inside the university. Mr. Nunes is here, may not agree because of a research center may have a different structure. But I'm saying about the university for the job which is related to their work and is done in the university labs, it belongs to the university, period. So if the TTO does the job and it has the the right people. I must say that TTOs has been in work for the last 10 years. Aristotle has started earlier than others. We are at ECPA, we are at 6 years working on this. I think we're getting more and more of maturity as time goes by, because things are coming to us and we start trying to find solutions. So this experience is now become part of our TTOs. Younger TTOs perhaps do not have as much of experience, but having all the laws that relate to IP, it's not difficult to really establish who owns what. So it is rather promising that more research output will get the way it should, that is getting patents or becomes spin-offs, and that can help researchers take out their work and get commercialized. What I said earlier still holds, that there is a funding gap, and that it is something that I don't know if I can suggest now how to solve it.
Yes, of course. What are your main suggestions? Do you think that this Ministry of Research and Innovation that has been announced will solve the problem?
Yes. Well, how to put together, let's say, in a ministry is not, to me, very important. What is the job of the General Secretary of Research and Innovation could do the same job. Perhaps things could get a little bit more efficient. But the thing of the matter is that how can we help patents to get commercialized? If I were to suggest, I would say, okay, put money on the side for a proof of concept, and that should be for biotech, because here we will talk about biotech, and be able to take these proposals and have international scientists from diaspora be able to evaluate and have the market that is being happening all over the world to tell us which of these research outputs should go forward and get the money. Not doing something like spread the money across ours, get this program and get the money across ours. It is very important to have outside an objective evaluation of the proposals. So that's one thing. So that's from the part of the researchers. But the other part is the industry. So you have to do a program for the industry. You should give incentives to the industry to collaborate with the researchers. The program Ερευνών Καινοτομών, that's Innovate and Research in English, has done some work and a very good promising results. This should be even more effort should be given and more money should be given. The researchers and the industry should sit down in the same table and start talking what they can do with the work that's been done at the laboratories. And such programs could do the job. The problem is, okay, the work has been done by the researchers. Whom do they talk to? Where do they take it? Well, support forums. Forums in which they can put pharmaceutical companies, you can, on the one hand, put the researchers to present their work and start get them connected at the early stage as much as possible. So in this way, you can really make a difference. You have to make the waters start moving, and you really need to put funds in there, not just have a Ministry of Innovation. This is a good way, but you have to put money behind that and put the money to the researchers and let the industry get involved with them.
So what you suggest is collaboration first, but mainly funding under any structure, under any scheme that is going to be developed. That funding is what is mainly missing from our institutions to develop on biotech. So, Maria, in Greece, in our universities and research centers, our biotech startups, our research teams that want to go out of the lab have one key common, the scientific novelty. So in the best case, we have a protected IP, we have a patent. From there and to the market, there is a huge gap. So we have identified that what misses is anything that has to do with the market readiness of the product, the entrepreneurial skills of the team. So when you scout your teams, your ecosystem to fund, as Cyprus seeds, some teams and host them in your institution, what do you expect to see, some early signs of market readiness in these immature teams to pick them and say that they have a strong potential, since the only thing you actually know is that they are scientifically excellent?
Beautiful question. So we have been running for the last 7 years. We completed 3 cycles and we are in the 4th cycle of the program. So we do have some data, and I would like to share that data with you to answer the question, Eri. We have supported to date 24 scientific teams from right across all the island, all the universities and centers of research from all industries. More than half is from the biotech, from the health, which is very surprising for Cyprus. I was personally very surprised that most of the applications, if you go back to the applications, the percentage of applications in the health is more than 50%. So we have been dealing with scientists looking to bring to the market solutions for health issues, either in the form of a device or a drug or a therapy. I think there is a simple answer to your question, and I've learned it the last 7 years. I've been dealing with the Cypriot ecosystem and the scientists. The most important thing is the passion and the dedication of the team. And I have learned from the Americans I've been dealing with, the MIT people mostly, and those who have been interviewing for us. You look at them in the eyes, and if there is no spark in their eyes, then the chance of taking that research to the market will be almost zero. And we have been focusing not on the professor who would never leave the university, we heard that many times, but on the PhD student who we called even champion, to incentivize him, so that upon finishing his PhD, would take it to the market. Even the champion, at the end of the road, he remains with the academic career. Very few, very few. So we are learning that going forward, the first thing we will be looking is at the champion's eyes to see that spark and the passion to take it to the market.
Thank you, Maria. I see, Arianna, you are nodding, so probably you agree. And could you please
yes.
Share with us, how are you building on founder skills in EGG, more than scientific excellence?
So the first thing I would like to say before answering to the question is I totally agree with Maria. I don't think it's 100% a policy issue. I understand we have to deal with that. I think it's a mentality issue. I think it's a mindset issue. I have been working for the past 3 years with research teams, and I beg them to open their eyes into the entrepreneurship and business world. I understand they're scientists and I respect that, but at the end of the day, I see that they will choose their academic pathway, which is not a bad thing, but the numbers are way higher than the ones choosing their startups. I only see people really caring about patents and like doing the research, but then I'm like, you can commercialize that. You can go out to the market. You can bring back something to the country and expand. Why don't you do that? We are here to help you. So I think it's also like we have to switch the mentality within universities, within schools. It's not only up to the higher educational systems. We have to start from a young age. And then, of course, policymakers and investors and the private sector, we all have to collaborate together. So at EGG, we really try to explain to them that, first of all, I agree with Maria, the team is number one. An investor may invest in a mediocre, for example, idea, but if you have the best team, they will invest in the team. If you have the best idea, but the team is not engaged, they don't care, because they need someone to execute the idea and like go on the next step and become the next unicorn, for example. What was the second question about?
About the preparation about skills, the founder skills. Do you have specialized programs in EGG with this intention?
So we have the pre-acceleration platform, which is dedicated and designed to help research teams. We provide them with a 2-month online acceleration program just for research teams from research universities and institutes, to help them understand how they can build up their idea and their research into a more commercialized way, a more business-oriented way. So we teach them how to pitch, how to understand their market, how to do the research, because they have, for example, the research they have done in university, but they don't quite understand how the size of the market, what is the total addressable market, for example.
Okay, thank you very much. Michali, talking about the lack of funding, I think you can contribute to this discussion we had with Professor Milonas, because there are some opportunities, indirect funding opportunities from the EU, which we do not take advantage of, more or less. Could you please share your thoughts about it?
Okay. First of all, I have to defend the ministry. So allow me to tell you that the Greek ministry has been investing a lot of money in fundamental research through ELIDEC, is investing a lot of money, again, in grants through Arianna, through the innovation clusters. We have 2 clusters in health. We have also 2 European digital innovation health institutions here in Greece, which were established recently. We also invested in the first round of the technology transfer offices, which was non-existent before 2020. We are running now the second round of investment in this domain, and we have the first 2 clusters, and then second row of 2 clusters of universities and technology and research organizations will be also in that pathway. We invest also 140 million for new venture capital companies, from the 200 million from ESPA. 140 out of them is for health and innovation only, dedicated, because we know that we have to de-risk. But still there are some missing links, and I will tell you which are these missing links and what we should do. This is my personal take, of course. The first is that we don't have research grants for proof of concept. This is very, very important, especially in the domain of the health sciences. And this amount of money, ideally, should be drawn from a national pocket. Because if we use ESPA, these teams should establish a company and they have to keep it open for 3 years. Otherwise, they have to give the money back. So there is this rule, and this is a problem, let's say. But still, even with ESPA money, we have to cover this missing link. Another missing link has to do with IP strategy. We mentioned that before. But we also, as a country, we have to sign the patent treaty about the European patent, the unitary patent, because this will reduce a lot of the costs about how much money you need to invest in having a European patent, and in case you need to go to a court, the cost of defending this patent will be very, very low if we sign this treaty, and we have to do that. Another missing link has to do also with we have incubators and accelerators, but in this domain, we need special infrastructure. I've been in Switzerland, in Belgium, in Ireland, and I've seen that they have special incubators where you can go there, test your ideas, stay there for 3-6 months and see if it works or it doesn't. And then you know if you should invest into a company or you have to start another round. And last but not least, I would say that it's not only mentality, it's also a policy issue. And if you want to have an integral solution in this, again, field, the first solution is to have this ministry that the Prime Minister mentioned here 3 days ago, which will bridge the two main ministries, higher education and research and innovation development, as it happens in 20 out of the 27 countries. I was looking at this data yesterday. And I would also, I would say, suggest to establish an entity for health advancement in order, because we have many spin-offs, we have many dormant patents, and we have many important companies in the pharma sector. These companies are producing 3.2% of national GDP, and they are second in terms of exports here in Greece as a sector. So we can, this special entity will bridge the gap between researchers, spin-off companies, and large enterprises, not only in Greece, but globally. And there is a model here. We have ELCAC. ELCAC is the National Defense Center, which was established 1 year ago. And the government participates in this entity with 67%, and they have money to invest in new companies, startups and spin-offs. And 33% is owned also by other investors. So this will help this sector to boost and take off from Greece, because I think this sector, health sciences, is number one for Greece. We have the best researchers, at least in the Southeast Europe, and we have a very important diaspora. We have to bridge them together.
Okay, thank you, Michali. And let's close.
As far as Horizon and issues like that, we have to invest money here in Greece in order to help the Greek teams to get grants from Europe as well, because there is a problem there. We are very good in, let's say, having participation in Pillar 2 of Horizon, but in Pillar 1, which is basic research, and Pillar 3, which is spin-off companies that go there to take money, grants and equity, they need support. And the Greek government has to support them.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Michali. So let's close this discussion before we give the floor to the audience for a few questions to Mr. Mallios. And so we all agree in this panel that we have missing links, we have fund needs, we have policy issues to solve in order to be able to speak with the funds and the investors in their language. So if we can, let's close this day with this question. Let's imagine that it is 2030, okay, 5 years from now. So what would success look like in Greece, considering the image we have now in biotech landscape? What would be the scale we need to target 5 years from now? 4 or 5 things that we need to accomplish in order to say that we are on the right track.
You're more aggressive than I am, and that says a lot, because I'm pretty much at a threshold of pain for me is extremely high on a risk tolerance perspective. I'm a big zero or hero kind of person and investor. I think 5 years is extremely aggressive, but let's say, if it were me, I would want to be in an environment where that academic institution has nothing to touch me with unless I ask for help, the government would not be the crutch that I look for in order to get me off the ground and bury me in months and months and months, maybe years of work and papers and filings and legal and accounting and all those things, that the seed investors would be there to replace the money he's throwing at me. These organizations would be there to partner with me at the level that I choose, and that the investment community is coming from everywhere. You know, it's funny that European VCs actually outpaced US VCs, I think for the first time in 30, 40 years. So there are VCs in Europe that are looking for deal flow. I have a friend of mine who runs Saudi Aramco Venture Fund. Runs it. He's Greek. You know, every time I talk to him, what he asks me, have you found me a Greek deal to invest in yet? I can't wait to put some money into a Greek deal. This is Saudi Aramco Ventures. Yeah? Guy has teams of people that we can only dream could look at deal flow, to look at possibilities and opportunities, to take risks and can afford to take risks. Yeah? He can't find a Greek company to invest in? Guy's from here. He can't find a Greek company to invest in? Do you think it's only because there's no good ideas here? There's good ideas everywhere. And there are no shortage of good ideas in this country with these people than anywhere else. So what is stopping him? This is what I'm saying. So in a perfect world, in a utopian environment, okay, yeah, put down your policies, put down your guardrails, and get out of the way. And you know, I might sound like an anarchist. I might sound like a weird guy who's like, hey, you know what? No, we need regulation and we need... Yeah, of course you do. But how about giving somebody a chance to get somewhere where you can regulate it? You know? I mean no disrespect. And I'm certainly not running for political office. So. But I just, that's the way I see it. The best way for an entrepreneurial environment to thrive is to give them some guardrails and get out of the way and let the private sector inspire, invest, because they have their own reasons. You know, theoretically speaking, we always talk about this, like, oh, so how do I pitch to VCs? How do I pitch to money, right? How do I get in front of that fund and get them to give me money? You know how crazy of a variable that is to answer? You could be walking into my office one day and I just got a liquidity event from something and I'm like, I got to put this to work or else I'm 30 days away from the end of the year, and if I don't show I've got money to work with that cash, my investors are going to be coming to me at the first quarter going, hey, why are we sitting on cash? What's wrong with you? You have no idea what my incentive is. You know, you have no idea that I may have actually just acquired IP from another investment that went south that now I have to figure out how to make work. And you walked in going, I could just plug that dude right in there. Yes, I love your technology. I love what you're working on. That's great. But do you know how to do this too? Because we got something going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so honest and to the point. But we still have 6 minutes to take a few questions from the audience. Who would like to make a question? Okay, we have a lot of them. Mr. Kirpidis.
Thank you. Before I ask the question, I would like to say that what Mr. Mallios said is just music to my ears. Where BioInnovation Greece is a very new organization, a little over a year. This is exactly what we have been saying for over a year. Exactly what Mr. Mallios is saying. So thank you. My question goes to Nikos and Michael. You mentioned several times ερευνό καινοτομό. I am honestly not familiar, and out of curiosity, how many products or how many spin-offs have been generated from this, and how many of those have been funded actually by VCs? Do you have from the top of your head, do you know? Because you mentioned several times Ερευνό καινοτομό. Zero.
Michali, would you like to answer that?
Yes.
And then also...
In the previous programming period, we financed 1,100 projects, and the 75% of these projects were collaborative projects between research organizations and companies. So out of these, there is a large number of products that are in the pipeline of becoming real products, but nobody has the actual figures right now. We have to check very thoroughly, company by company, and give you a fair number about this.
Maybe Professor Milonas has a few success stories. Do you have?
Well, we have success stories over previous years, but to the extent that the research is not mature, we can't do really much because the industry hasn't got to be collaborating so much with researchers, so that's something we have to work out. With immature research that hasn't really, yes, patents, but that patents doesn't really mean much. It has to go beyond that. You cannot really commercialize something. And you cannot have spin-outs, you cannot have licensing. So we're at that stage, Death Valley, something, whatever you call it, but something has to push this because there is research. Indeed, as Ari has told in the beginning, there is much of research, but cannot really go forward. There is funding missing, and the state hasn't really realized that. Now, in the last 5-6 years, and Michalis has done a good job in that, the state starts thinking that it has to do something. This is a second program now that we have as TTOs, and we are funded for the next 4 years. That's something good, but it's not necessarily, it's only for 4 years, one may say, but at least it's good. So that shows that the government realizes that he has to do something about it. Okay, once these things are done, I think we can really talk about more numbers.
And the impact.
Okay.
Maria, would you like to add something? Also, Mr.
Anyway,
Nunes
I would like to say that
Yes.
8 years as director of Demetrios, it is. After 8 years as director of Demetrios, especially this program, we evaluate it as dead last in adding value, in creating value in tech in our institution. It created a mess. It created a bureaucracy. There is no way through this bureaucracy to make anything out of the collaboration of the industries that participate with the institutions that they participate. And ownership of IP, of anything else, is not a light matter. You yourself, Professor Milonas, you said, that a professor at the University of Athens who submits a patent, the ownership is at the University of Athens. But your rector will not admit that. So if an investor comes, they will see a patent that says ownership, the name of your professor. So the investor will think, if I invest, then the University of Athens will come 10 years later, they will say, oh, the rights are mine. Do you understand why it is complicated? And if you have a professor collaborating with one of my researchers and they do great things, then Demetrios will not dare anymore invest ourselves, our own money in this patent because we know we will never attract investors.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. If I may, I'm sorry but to interrupt, but we can continue the conversation on this specific issue after the panel finishes. Another question, Mr. Niforos, not on the Ερευνό καινοτομό.
Not away. No way. But it will be a combined question with an assumptions that my friend Michael and my good friend Dimitris, that I know you from New York Times, know the newspaper, the coffee that we drink. Okay, assuming...
You have 20 seconds.
No way. Okay, it's an interesting question that will give some answers, believe me. Assuming that the Ministry of Michael will give me the necessary funding in order to create an IP, secure it with lawyers and so on, and have a secure IP with money, and give me a grant. And because I am startup, I don't have money, I can't find a seed financing, and I'm coming to you, and you give, this is the program, I will give you 100,000 whatever money in order to go to the lawyers and create a global IP and to secure it. And I'm going to my friend Demetrios, and I will tell you, I have a secure, lawfully IP. And I have it on my balance sheet on the asset side. And you come and you say, I'm going to invest in your balance sheet. Okay, then we have something to move. We have to create a valuation of the IP. Can we evaluate an IP in order to invest? I am sure that we can evaluate an IP. Would you invest if I will have a fully, lawfully and secure IP? Would you invest in a balance sheet where the IP will be there, and to be patient in order this IP creates sales after X years? Imagine Amazon, which is a very big, is a long shot for us, for our discussion, okay, and be a patient investor, since you have a secure IP and your shares are, that you bought with your capital increase, has the rights to the percent that you belong your company on the IP that is on the balance sheet.
Thano, the counter is counting up. How did you do that? It's going up.
It's actually an expertise of his.
Okay, I think our session has expired, so if I may close this discussion and continue together afterwards.
Okay, Demetrios.
I don't know, this guy is in charge, not me.